In this video, I'm going to run through something I created that I like to call the Makai Character Builder. Basically, this is a form that I run through with all of my clients, and it helps us both get aligned with who we're actually creating content for, so that we're not creating content just for the sake of going viral, but more so that we're reaching the right people so that they can actually purchase our product or service. So I'm going to fill this whole form out using some examples, and I'll kind of explain it a little more along the way. So right here, I'll just put in the random stuff because this doesn't really matter. So now this is like the basics of everything. We need to learn a little bit more about like the whole company. So we need the mission statement, the vision statement, the cheapest product that's sold, and then the most expensive product that is sold. So I'm going to use an example of this one skating company that I ran through this with one time. They basically teach kids how to skateboard. So their mission statement can be something along the lines of making skateboarding cool again. And the vision statement could be something along the lines of this: helping kids get more active via skateboarding, become the largest skateboarding trading company in America, and eventually expand to other regions. Now, when I'm running through this exercise with clients, I don't need the mission statement or the vision statement to be perfect because, again, it can always be changing. I just need like a general sense of what the mission and the vision of this company is. And the reason why it's so important for someone like me who creates the content to have this is because if we don't have the mission and the vision, then we run the risk of creating content just for the sake of getting views. We need the mission and vision so that every single piece of content we put out onto social media, we can ask ourselves, does this piece of content help us get toward the mission or the vision of the company? If that piece of content doesn't align with the mission or the vision, then we probably shouldn't post it because it's not helping us get any closer to it. So this is going to be the North Star of the whole content strategy. And again, usually if you're a business who's been around for a long time, you're going to have the mission and the vision statement already written out somewhere. And then the cheapest product you sell, I'm going to say like a $250 coaching session. And then the most expensive would just be like an 8-week, $2,500 coaching session. And these aren't real numbers, by the way, guys. I'm just making stuff up here. Now I need to figure out more about the actual audience. So literally the only information I need to know is your current customers. How old are they? If the business has been around for a while, which is usually the people I work with, they're going to know the data on how old their current customers are. And in this instance, their clients ranged anywhere from age 8 to age 88, but their average was around like 8 to 13. Where does the target audience live? The more specific about this you can get, the better. So these guys knew their data and they said a majority of their clients were in California, New York, and then I think it was either Texas or Florida. I'll just say Florida. But it's not even where they live geographically. It's also where do they live on the internet? Where are they consuming most of their content? For these guys, it's mostly Instagram and TikTok. But if it's someone like a professional business coach, those people might not spend a lot of their time on TikTok. They might be living on their phone in apps like Instagram or LinkedIn. Now we have to ask ourselves, what does the target audience do for work? Since the target audience is 8 to 13, what they do for work is they just go to school. But there's also, another side of the coin here, because the 8 through 13-year-olds, they're not the people who are buying the skateboarding coaching. It's the parents. So what do the parents do for work? They probably just work normal jobs. And I would say they're more towards like the upper middle class. Now, what gender is your target audience? For this example here, it's like 50% male, 50% female. So there's no predominant gender for this specific, skateboard coaching example. And then what kind of lifestyle does the target audience want to live? They want to live an active lifestyle. Obviously they want to have fun because they want to learn how to skateboard, and you can go more in depth here. But, for me, this is really all I need because it's just literally kids. They're just being kids. What are the values of the target audience? Again, for this example, it's just having fun, right? The kids just want to have fun. They want to learn how to skateboard. Maybe they want to impress their friends, but it's pretty surface level here. For this example, other examples, it might go a lot deeper, but for this example, we'll just keep it simple. Now, what is the average prospect's attitude toward what you're selling? So again, there's two sides of the coin here. There's the kid and then there's the parent. So for the kid, they're probably excited because they want to learn. For the parent, they might be skeptical. Because in this example, a stranger would be meeting up with their kid to train them. Meet up with kid. So this just raises a red flag that, okay, so our prospects who, is also the parents, they might be skeptical because a stranger is meeting up with the kid. So this is something that we might want to address in our content strategy so that the parents feel more comfortable with purchasing the service. Now, what do the people in your ideal prospect circle think about the product? For example, what do these kids' friends think about them getting a skateboarding coach? They might think it's silly, or they might think it's cool. The other parents, so like when parents are conversing with other parents, what do they think about a service like this? They might think it's a good idea, but again, if they're brand new to it, they might be a little skeptical. And then do the prospects believe they can achieve the desired result? So like an example of this, like do they think they're smart enough to see the results? Do they think they have the money to afford your product or service? Or do you have to coach them through the mental barriers and learning curves? So for this example, the kid might have some mental barriers because they might not have the confidence in themselves to be able to learn how to skateboard. But again, this might vary from kid to kid. I'm gonna walk you through kind of what my mind thinks when I write the sentence down. So like when I think the kid might not be confident in themselves, what I'm thinking on the content strategy side is I want to give content for these kids to be able to get quick wins on the skateboard so that they can build up the confidence to realize that, oh, they can actually learn more tricks or get better at skateboarding. So that's what's going through my mind when I write stuff in on here. And now the parent, they probably believe that their kid can learn, but they might be worried about how much the training will actually cost and how quickly the kid can learn because maybe they don't want to pay for sessions for a whole year straight. And now coming back here to the average prospect's attitude, the parent might be skeptical because a stranger's meeting up with the kid, but also something else that I thought of is the parent might think skateboarding is dangerous. So the parent might not like skateboarding altogether. They might think it's dangerous. And then what this tells me is in the content strategy, we need to basically show parents how skateboarding can be like a healthy form of exercise or a healthy pastime and how it really isn't as dangerous if you take the proper precautions. And we can also show content about like how to skateboard safely and stuff like that so that we can kind of make the parents feel a little more at ease about this whole thing. And by the way, the reasoning behind asking these 3 questions is this little study called the theory of planned behavior. So this is a graph of the theory of planned behavior. And it basically states that like the attitudes, the subjective norms, and the perceived behavioral control leads to the intention of purchasing, which then, if all these things are positive, will lead to the behavior of actually purchasing. So they can have the intention of purchasing this training service, but if the subjective norms and the perceived behavior controls are negative toward the intention, then they won't actually make the behavior of purchasing. So that's why we ask these questions here, is because we want to know the attitude. Like, is it positive? If the attitude is positive, then yes, the intention of purchasing this training might be good. Like the kid has a positive attitude, but the parent doesn't have a positive attitude. Okay, so then we need to tackle that so that that can be positive over to the intention. What are the subjective norms? Also in here, I can also add other parents might think skateboarding is dangerous. And then we come over to the subjective norms. So like, what do the parents and the other parents think? Or what do the other kids think? Oh, some kids might think it's a little bit silly, but again, that's just kids being kids, so it doesn't really matter. Some parents, they might have known someone who had a freak accident while skateboarding because they didn't wear a helmet. And then they might tell the parent that, oh, don't have your son skateboard because I knew this one person who blah, 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 blah. So then we would have to tackle that in the content strategy as well to make sure that the subjective norms are positive. And then it comes down to like, does your prospect believe that they can achieve the desired result? The kid, he might not be confident, so he might not want to do it. But that's why we can create content around showing the kid how to get quick wins. So like teaching him how to do a kickflip in your room or how to, push the right way. I don't skateboard, so I don't know, all this terminology. But once you give those kids the quick wins, they can get the confidence and then believe that they can actually do it. So then everything leading to the intention will be positive. And once everything is positive, it will lead to the behavior of the actual purchase. So that's why we have these 3 questions in here. It's to gauge kind of where we're at with the theory of planned behavior. So now moving on to the next part, let's talk about the competition. This is my favorite part right here. Now for this company, their product competitors weren't really on social media, so it wasn't that helpful. But I'm probably gonna run through this page here with a different example rather than the skate company. So let's say, for example, you sell sales training. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to list 3 product competitors. And now since I work in this space a lot, I have some clients who are in this space, I kind of know a lot about here. So it's going to be pretty easy for me. So what a product competitor is, it's someone who is selling kind of the same product or service as you. So if I was selling sales training, one of my competitors could be Jeremy Miner. Another one of my competitors could be Cole Gordon. Another product competitor could be Salesforce. And then moving on to the next part, this is where it gets really helpful for writing the content strategy, because you can figure out basically like, what do we like about these people and what they're doing? And then what do we not like? And then we're going to kind of build our strategy around what this person enjoys from these people. And we're going to cut out what this person doesn't like about them. So like, what do you enjoy about them? Let's say for Jeremy Miner. And again, what I'm writing right now isn't going to be true. It's just going to be, for the sake of the example. Let's just say I really like the tactical advice he gives. Then let's say for Cole Gordon, I don't know, I really like his consistency with social media. Maybe he posts every single day and I like that about him. And then let's say for Salesforce, I'll say, I really like the way they scale to the level they're at. I really like how they scaled to the level they're at. And this is where you learn a lot. So what do you not like about these people, these product competitors? So let's say Jeremy Miner, I don't like how corny the captions look. I don't know. For Cole, let's say, I don't like the lifestyle content It feels fake. I don't actually watch Cole Gordon. I don't know if he makes lifestyle content. This is just like an example that I'm putting out here. And then Salesforce, what I don't like, it feels super corporate-y. A lot of the posts are boring. And this information really helps write out the content strategy because, like, for example, if I'm talking with a business owner and they're super in the weeds of their business and in the industry, a lot of the times their prospects, like the people they're trying to reach, are very similar to them. So the way that they'll consume on social media, it's kind of going to give me more insight into how like their target audience will consume. And that's not the case all of the time. So like sometimes if you have like a business owner who just doesn't consume any social media at all, or like they're super detached from their business, this might not be super helpful. And if that's the case, then that's when it's your job to go in there and basically act like it. Like you'll go back and you'll act like you're the target audience and you'll consume content that this demographic of people is consuming. And then you'll find out basically who the biggest product competitors are with that same demographic. And then that's when you would make the educated decision. Like that's when I'd make the decision like, okay, what do I like about these people? What do I not like about them? You know, it really depends on who's actually running the business and if they have this sort of data and if they have this sort of input. And then I would list out the audience competitors. Now the audience competitors, they're not people who necessarily sell the same product, but they're people who share the same target demographic. They share this same audience. So the people who are 18 through 13, they live in these states, they live on these social platforms and they do the same stuff for work and they're this gender. These are the same people who are consuming from the audience competitors. So I'm going to go back to the skating example. I'm detaching from the sales training example, but back onto the skating example. So like a 3 audience competitors for like, I think to myself, who are ages 8 to 13-year-olds watching who are primarily in school. They're watching Mr. Beast. They're watching Dude Perfect. They're watching, I don't know, maybe Logan Paul. I'm not sure if that's true or not. And then I would ask the business owner, what do they like about these people? And then I would ask the business owner these same questions. What do they like about them? What don't they like about them? And this will give me the information of, okay, what aspects of it are we going to put into our social media? What aspects are we not? And sometimes I might have to override them. Like if Mr. Beast, Dude Perfect, and Logan Paul, if they all share one commonality, I'm using this as an example. Like maybe they all have the same style of captions or they use the same like background music. And then the business owner is like, oh, I don't like this font or I don't like how they use this music. I might come in there and say, look, I understand that you don't necessarily like this, but again, you're not the target audience. There's a reason there's a commonality between all 3 of these people who share the same audience. So it might be worth it for us to test out these things to see if it works for us. That way, when that demographic of people is scrolling on social media, they'll already be acclimated to watching these types of videos because they have the same captions or the same background music or whatever. And again, that's just an example, but that is something that I would actually look at. I would look at the way Mr. Beast edits his short form videos, the way Logan Paul edits his short form videos, the way Dude Perfect edits them. And I would try to incorporate those same elements into this skateboarding company's videos because they share the same audience. And then again, yeah, fill out what we like, what we don't like. And then this is a big question. It's like, what sets you apart from all your competition? So for the skating example, I believe they said like they had the most trainers in the country. Every one of their trainers was vetted harshly. And they've done more than, I don't know, 20,000 lessons. So that's what's going to set them apart from everybody else. And this kind of just gives you, as the person creating the content, the confidence and kind of like the reassurance that the content we're creating, like there's merit to the content we're creating because we've done all these things and because we're actually set apart from everyone else for these reasons. Now, these next questions, they're a bit unorthodox, but you got to trust the process here. And I'll explain a little bit about why. So then I asked the business owner, it's like, what is your favorite city and why? For this example, I'm just going to say San Francisco because that's close to where I live. Then it's like, who's your favorite superhero, supervillain? Then I would have some explanation like, oh, I love the fast-paced vibes. I love the beach, blah, blah, blah. Who's your favorite superhero, supervillain? I'd say, oh, maybe Iron Man. I love the tech. I love the ingenuity. They'll give some random example. And then the favorite animal. This one's usually like a throwaway. This isn't really that great of an answer, but I'll just say, I don't know, a tiger. Just because, I don't know, I like tigers. This one doesn't really give me the best results always. It's just sometimes it does confirm the 2 up here. So the reason I ask these, the what's your favorite city and why, and who's your favorite superhero / supervillain and why, is because of color theory. So these artists, like the artists of logos of these cities, the artists of these superhero creators, they all had color theory in mind. So for example, here's a chart here. So like the color red, it means passion, active, bold, physical, power, ambition. And then all these big brands, they followed along. The color orange means instinct, warmth, optimism, freedom, motivation. So like when the creators of these superheroes created the color palettes, so like Iron Man is like a red and like a yellowish orange, we'll see that Iron Man also inhibits, power, ambition, confidence, being a leader, being exciting, bold. And then orange, there's like that bit of freedom, the motivation. And then even if you look at the city of San Francisco, who has like a similar color palette, it will match that kind of like red and orange-ish yellow vibes. And then you can kind of see, like, it's super interesting. Every time I ask this question to business owners, the city and this, like the city sports teams or like the city in general, and then the superhero or supervillain, they all have the same color palette. And it's because they have those same traits. Like they share the same values. So if they say Iron Man, it's because they share the same values under this red category. Now, this may not work out 100% of the time, but it's worked for me about 90+% of the time. And then usually if I just get bad answers here, I have to do, a little bit more digging. But like I said, like 90% of the time, it's literally the same color palettes. And then we can also use these same color palettes for a lot of the content, like the captions, the pop-ups, stuff like that. Like it's just super helpful to know this stuff. And then down here, I have the favorite piece of art and why. So like I'd basically go through here and they would say, what piece of art is their favorite and why. This will help me figure out a little bit more about the values again. So like maybe they say Starry Night because they love how it's calm. It feels more like honest than these other ones who are just like pontificators or stuff like that. I don't know. Like usually when people come here, while I go through this whole thing, it usually takes me about 40 minutes to run through a client with these. But usually when I go through this, they say the same couple of words over and over again. And then when they get to the art piece and they explain why that piece of art is their favorite, they're saying the same words that they were mentioning in all of the questions before. So I would basically find those commonalities between words like calm, honest, truthful, energetic, whatever. And then that will kind of help reinforce how this brand wants to be seen. And then the final questions, it's like, who would never use your product? So like for a fitness example, it'd be like, people who make excuses, people who have a victim mindset, stuff like that. This one here is interesting too. It's what brands, not people, do you want to emulate? So like if they think of like the biggest brands in the world, which ones would they want to emulate? And this can give you some more insight. And it's funny too when the brands that these people mention also match up with the same color palettes of the superhero and the city. So this is just like a little extra thing. If your brand had a voice, what would it sound like? A lot of the times the answer here will be some of the words they were saying earlier. So like again here, if they say they like the calm, the honest, the energy, however they like to describe these paintings, a lot of the times they'll say that same thing in here. So they'll say the brand voice, they want it to be truthful, they want it to be authentic. This one's a fun question too. It's like, if you're running an ad with an unlimited budget, what song would you set it to? And this can give you kind of just more insight into like who the business owner is as a person, and kind of like, and more so like the overall tone of the brand. This one's a hit or miss question, I will say, but when they answer it truthfully, then it's a really good question because you get to learn a lot about how that person, how the business owner actually thinks. And then the last question I like to ask is like, if you imagine you're at a dinner party and you overhear someone talking about your brand, what would you love to hear them say? And they'll basically kind of reinforce the values that they want for their brand. So it's like they want people to say, he knows what he's talking about, he's helped so many people. Everyone has different answers here, but this really shows you like why this person is in business and what they actually want out of it, because they kind of open up here like that. This little scenario, they're showing you the reason I'm in business and the reason I do what I do is because I want other people to think this way about me. Obviously that's not why they're doing what they do, but it's like, it's just a different perspective on kind of what drives them a little bit. And that's basically the whole character builder. Like all this information here helps me write out a content strategy. And I think it's super, super helpful to get aligned with a business owner on what to actually create content about. And so that we're creating content to reach the right audience and not just going viral for the sake of going viral. So yeah, I hope this helped out. And if you want to walk through this character builder with me, then go into the description and I have a link to our website and we can schedule a time to meet up or something like that if you see fit. But yeah, have a good one, guys.